Yeah, I'm gonna start streaming right now. A little bit early, couple minutes early. Never hurt nobody. You gotta just make sure the sound is good. I don't think I need to be capturing anything else. Just need to check. Ah, yeah. My head is down, but this is the time I want to be with my head down. I've got my phone here just to make sure that I'm streaming good and that it's coming out correct. And today I'm gonna be doing a list of a whole bunch of questions that I see happening online and also that I have had. I don't have a lot of subscribers who show up for these things. That being said, if you come and all of a sudden you got questions, ask them. Absolutely ask them. And now that I think about this, I don't have my setup done so that I can actually do that. Ooh, how would I do that to make it work? How would I do that? Hot dog. Yeah, I need to figure that out. Because I like to do this standing business. It brings better energy. Brings a lot better energy. Ah, well, I do welcome you, and I thank you for coming to see this broadcast. This live stream. It's not a broadcast. It's a live stream. It's a live stream. I'm so old school. So old school. Hey, here's the big one. Here's the big one. Okay, say this properly. This is the right. I'm double thinking. Okay. In this live stream today, I'm going to be talking about how I learned to spot the lies that kept me sick, that kept us sick. If the media can twist and manipulate things, what makes us think that the food industry wouldn't do the same thing? We see the media twisting things to their own gain, to make us believe or get us to believe things that they want us to believe. And I found many institutions, many entities do this, engage in cherry picking and filtering out information, filtering out stories, filtering out things that contradict or threaten or challenge their idea. And I witness this all the time. And so if the media, and I'm going to even argue authorities, are willing to twist things in order to get the population to believe what they want them to believe, why wouldn't the food industry do the same thing? Get us to believe what they want us to believe, get the authorities to believe what they want the authorities to believe, so that they can get the outcomes that they want. Making money. Making money. I mean, think about this. Think about this. You go back to like 1942, and people are consuming bacon, eggs, sometimes oatmeal for their morning meal. But bacon, eggs, sausage, meat. If you're a farmer if you're a grain farmer, you're not going to make much money from people eating that. But if you are a cereal producer, so different cereals, you're not going to make much money from people constantly buying animal products. So what if you could get people to be convinced that the healthiest food that they could eat would be your product, and the worst food that you could eat would be or you could eat, that the people could eat, would be your competitors' products? What if you could get people to believe that? But wouldn't you know it? Wouldn't you know it? The information does not back you up. The information, the facts, the research, the results that people are getting, their lifestyles, it's not in your favor. Most people, in fact, back then that are farmers knew that if you want to fatten up your cattle, you want to fatten up your pigs, you want to fatten up any animal, feed them tons of grains. And, people generally don't desire to be overweight. They don't want to be fat. That's a mess. So, I've got a whole bunch of notes down here so I stay on track. I'm already doing it now. I digress easily and take off on rabbit trails. So I'll be looking down just to keep track of my notes. And the food industry has gotten us to believe a lot of different things so that we will consume their product. But there's more. I mean, it's come out as of late, and it's not being shouted from the rafters in the news media, but it's been coming out that the companies, see, I'm hesitant to say the pharmaceutical companies, but right now that's the term that we have. The companies that make the pills, that make the medication, some of them are dishonest. Some of them want us to believe certain things so that they can sell their product and sell that product to us for life. And one of the things that they've got us to believe is like heart disease. It's kind of the luck of the draw. Maybe you get it, maybe you don't. Stop eating meat, stop eating animal fats, and that's going to help to reduce people's chances of getting heart disease. Yet heart disease is increasing like crazy in the population. Diabetes is supposed to be basically a death sentence, and all you're doing is trying to stretch out your life as long as you possibly can, but eventually you're going to succumb to the complications of diabetes. And there is no way to treat this disease so that you can eliminate the symptoms. They'll argue that type 2 diabetes is not reversible. Even more, type 1 diabetes, there's not much that you can do about it. Basically, take lots of medications and do your best. And I believe that there's more to this story. And I've come to learn these things now. I'm not an expert. But the thing is I'm the one that has to live with my body. I'm the one that has to live with my health. And if I could have the power to know what's going on with my body and know how to deal with it, I'd like that, because I'm going to make choices that are best for me. Just like you would make choices that are best for you. When you go to the grocery store, you're not thinking to yourself, "Oh, I'm going to poison myself. That's what I desire to do. I want to hurt myself." You don't shop that way. You don't do any type of shopping. When you buy yourself a car, you don't buy a car based on how do I say this? Come on, Rodney. You do not buy a car based on torturing yourself, based on hurting yourself, based on trying to make yourself miserable, based on trying to make yourself suffer. You buy a car to make life easier, to get for pleasure, for making life easier is what to say, making like having convenience. You want your life to benefit. And so when you have the knowledge, you're going to make the choices that benefit you. And you care about the people around you, so you'll make choices to help benefit the people around you. And I believe that we can know about health, about nutrition, and even about medications to a degree. I want to be careful there, but that we can know so that we can make choices that benefit us instead of benefiting those who have nothing to do with our lives. And those that get that benefit from us end up giving us end up being a detriment to us. So they get lots of benefit from us, and we get detriment in return. We get deleterious effects. I'm using all these fancy words, and I'm stumbling to say it properly. I want to show you how I was able to discover how to take control of my health and how to get better. I want to have health that is beneficial to me and not making everybody else rich. My poor father, he has to spend over $240 a month on medications alone. Imagine that. Imagine that. Maybe you're in that boat already. Maybe you're spending tons of money on medication or vitamins just to deal with your health. And I think that we can do better. I think that we can do better. I used to be 220 pounds and overweight, wildly overweight at 220 pounds. I should be no more than about 145, 150 to 145. And I was pre-diabetic. If I had sugary drinks, oh, that would make me sick. I would just be, I would, yeah, okay. It would make me feel really sick, right? It would make me really sick. I wasn't full-blown diabetic yet. I wasn't needing medication, but yeah, I was not in a good place. And I was stuck in the, okay, so I tried out calorie counting. And it worked-ish. But that's all I had was just calorie counting. You just control the amount of calories going in, and then you're gonna get skinnier, and that's the best that we can do. Oh, and move more. With a 90-hour-a-week job that was sedentary, moving more was difficult for me to pull off. And I got to admit, I don't like exercise. I like work, but I don't like exercise. So go to the gym, pump a bunch of iron for the purposes of getting muscles, and that's it. But at the end of the day, there is a place for exercise. But yes, I was stuck in the calorie counting, pre-diabetic, 220 pounds, and rocketing towards major health concerns. Now, media manipulation versus health manipulation. I think that who funds and controls this story is really important to understand. I've learned about this from Dr. Anthony Chafee, Dr. Ken Berry, Nutrition with Judy. I can't think of her proper, Judy Cho from Nutrition with Judy. My no carb life. Not everybody's a doctor, but the first three were. And they talked about the research that is being done. The research is being done to inform the public and inform the government, along with informing food companies, as to what is healthy, what we should be eating. And the funding comes from the companies that will benefit from the positive research. And the funding comes from the companies that it would negatively affect if the research comes out with negative results. If the research doesn't say that their food, their product is not beneficial for people, then they lose out. And it came out, I don't know how long ago. I'm just going to say recently. After decades of suppression of the information, it came out that yes, the researchers had been paid off when it came to discovering what was the cause first of heart disease. There was researchers that had been paid off about that. And then what was the cause of diabetes? Money again, big money involved. If everybody believed that sugar was bad for you, like just utterly bad for you, how would that affect the sales when it comes to products that feature sugar? If if you were to find out that sugar was the cause of diabetes, like it's just that's where it's coming from, how would that affect the bottom line of those sugar companies? And what about carbohydrates? What if it was to come out that carbohydrates are the cause of obesity, the cause of diabetes? How would that affect the bottom line? So it seems that there were certain individuals that paid a lot of money to get researchers to say things a certain way or to omit information. Um, Apparently, there was studies done with the over saturated fat that came out with that didn't come out with the results that they wanted. They being those who sponsored the research wanted the results to say that saturated fat was bad for you, and it turned out no, it wasn't. And that research got buried, and it was like something like 4 decades later that the niece or the daughter, I think the daughter of the father, after he had passed away, gone through all this material and came across, went through his stuff and went through his research and came across this research that said, yeah, saturated fat is not dangerous. Again, I'm not a doctor, but it's like, why would they suppress that information? Let's pretend that that information was just noise. Put it out there. Put it out there anyways. Because if it really is not true, if it's not true that the saturated fat is not bad for you, well, all the other evidence will crush it. You won't be able to that research would never last, right? Because it's going to get into a fight with all the other research, and it's going to be like, no, look at this, look at this, look at this study, look at this study. And I'm not talking epidemiological studies, and that's another big thing that I've learned. Epidemiological studies are often used to try and prop up the dietary advice that we have today. What's epidemiological studies? Yeah, that's asking people questions. How often have you had oranges this year? How many oranges do you eat at a time over the last year? Um, how often do you have ice cream? When was the last? Uh, when you have ice cream, how much do you have? I was about to say, when was the last time you had ice cream, which is also a part of the questions, but it's usually over the past year, and how many cups and how many. Yeah, I think it's how many cups have you had per meal over the last year. And those studies are wildly weak because people have a hard time remembering what they had for breakfast yesterday, let alone try to remember over the past year what they had. They don't have clinical double-blind studies to determine what is the effect of a given food on someone's body. And they are hard to conduct because there are ethical considerations that must be thought about. If you have a group of people and you say you're not allowed to have anything but X, well, you're forcing people and treating them like cattle, and that's, yeah, there's issues with that. But it also lends weaknesses, because then how do we know if apples are essential to your diet? Or forget apples, just fruit. How do we know fruit are essential to your diet? It's That's going to be difficult. That's going to be difficult to determine without studies to say, hey, without clinical double-blind studies to say, hey, you have to have fruit. The best we've got is that it seems that people who are disciplined about their eating seem to have better health outcomes. Why am I saying seems? Because there's a lot of conflicting information, a lot of conflicting data, because they are relying on people's memories and then our interpretation of their memories in the context of the culture that they come from. And And another thing that seems to be happening when it comes to the information, when it comes to you know, when it comes to information, is emotional framing. What do I mean by that? Okay, recently there was, and I'm trying to decide how to give an example here about the emotional framing and how that affects our perception of the information. If okay, it has been done in say classrooms where religion has been given a bad name. They've just decided religion's a bad thing, and the news media has decided religion's a bad thing, and so they say that, then somebody religious will come up with some information, will find some information, will be stating some information that is contradictory to what they want you to believe, they being authorities and people of influence. Well, they'll just say, well, this is a religious person is now saying this thing. Instantly, because that's a religious person, the thing that they're saying is automatically put in a shadow of doubt because a religious person is saying it. And this seems to be the way that they frame information around food. What do I mean? So meat and animal fat. Well, that was the old way. And everything old is outdated, and we've got something better nowadays that's new, and we've got all these experts that are saying this new stuff, and this is better than that old stuff. Remember the old days when they thought slavery was fine? One has nothing to do with the other, but they discredit the people from the old days so that what they're saying about what they're trying to push now sounds so much better, because of us modern people, we're far more advanced and progressive, and we would never think those terrible things they used to think back then. I mean, we've seen the news and people of influence um, frame things in such a way to get people to believe all kinds of terrible things and to get them to do terrible things, or they end up doing terrible things depending on the person. I'm dodging around a topic here because I'm not wanting this to get into politics. I'm already edging on it as it is with this topic. But there's a lot of influence coming from the news media, the how to say, the government, which is just an easy way of summarizing just all those people in power, and the corporations, to say we got to get them to believe the way we need them to believe. And this is sounding conspiratorial. This is sounding really conspiratorial. But I was studying, and just a lot of it was the results. You see this being pushed, but you see those results. Yeah, I'm dancing here because I'm wanting to talk about what happened with Charlie Kirk. And what happened with Charlie Kirk is he was his life was prematurely snuffed out by somebody terrible. But if you go into certain news media, they're going to frame it a certain way so that it diminishes the amount of responsibility that one might have when it comes to what was done to him. And a community of people were being accused as being responsible for having inspired what took place, and they wanted to distance themselves. They're like, no, 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 that's not us. That's not us. So they started framing it in a completely different thing. And the first thing they did was try to just simply blame the people that were accusing them. Like, no, 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 it's not us. It was you. You're the ones. And the opposite was true. But that framing, they talked about the event and they were truthful basically about the event, But then the framing, that's where they went to town and drew up a story. And it seems the same thing has taken place when it comes to food and nutrition, where, you know, they state certain things to be true. Like spinach has calcium in it. And so obviously the body needs calcium, and so we should consume lots of spinach in order to increase the amount of calcium that our body gets. That's only part of the story. And I mean, you wouldn't want to upset your mother who taught you, your grandmother who taught you to eat like this. You should be eating like this. You should be eating lots of spinach so that you can get lots of calcium in your body. What did I discover about spinach? Well, spinach, one, has anti-nutrient chemicals within it to keep you from being able to absorb the calcium that's in it, along with, I think it's specifically, I want to say, is oxalates that are within spinach that prevents your body from being able to absorb the calcium that's in it. Like, you know, instead of telling you the facts, they tell you a story so that you will believe what they want you to believe. That meat is bad for you. The animal fat is bad for you. And I'm using spinach as a quick one, but let's go with corn. That's a big one. Corn gets used in a lot of food. Yeah, corn has anti-nutrients in it. So these are chemicals and compounds that are designed to keep you from being able to absorb nutrients. And so you get busy and you start eating that stuff, it keeps you from absorbing all kinds of different nutrients. And we often mix. We don't just eat corn, we're eating all kinds of different vegetables and plants. And many of them, all of them, have anti-nutrients within them. And I apologize, I'm arguing with a sneeze coming up. Did that work? I hope that worked. Man, allergies. I've always fought with allergies. As a child, as a young child, I didn't have a lot of allergies. But as a as a, as a child, I did not have lots of allergies, and as I have grown up, I've had lots of allergies. I am getting distracted here. I need to solve this problem. I do. There we go. What I just fixed there is I'm constantly getting distracted to see if somebody is watching the live stream. And I find that I get nervous and distracted by that number changing. So that's no good. All right. So so the idea here is that if they're willing to manipulate the news to get us to believe certain things about political issues and social issues, there's nothing stopping these same people for manipulating the news and the information so that they will get the benefit of people buying their products and believing what they want them to believe. And it does seem to be there's a lot of circular money. The money, goes back to, how do I say this? It seems that there is a lot of connection with the corporations and the government, and the food industry, and just it feeds on itself. Yeah. There's a big one. The standard American diet is engineered to profit. It's engineered for profit, for monetary profit, not to heal and not to prevent. The standard American diet will feed you, but it doesn't nourish you. It seems that when it comes to the average Westerner. Okay, America is like kind of the pinnacle of this, but Canada and England and Australia all are struggling with the same thing. And that is the food will fill you up, but your body will be starved of vitamins and minerals and fat, animal fat, and protein. And you have to often compensate with eating extra in order to get the nutrition that you need. This happens to all of us on a regular diet. You have a meal, and a few hours later, you got to eat again. And a few hours later, you got to eat again, 3-4 hours later. In the meantime, you're also going to put snacks in there. If you head over to the vegetarian or vegan diet, you're going to struggle even more. And not you don't just eat once every few hours, it's once every couple of hours. You've got to consume. And why is that? Your body is screaming for nutrition. And I'll argue that that's the main reason why everybody is so many people are overweight on the standard American diet. I know vegan, I threw the vegan in there. I don't see vegans becoming all that overweight so much as they struggle with starvation. It seems that they struggle with nutrition and that kind of thing. So they might be rather skinny when they stay faithful to it for a long time, but they are struggling nutritionally. And there's some major issues around that. But standard American diet is what most people are eating. Yeah, you're filling yourself up, but there's no nutrition in it, so your body gets hungry again really, really fast. Not to mention all the spiking of your blood sugar. When it spikes up, it's fun. Like you feel full and you're okay and stuff like that. But when it crashes, your body is like, we need more food, and so you got to give it more carbohydrates, more food, so it fills the stomach up and gets your blood sugar up. Now here's a big one that I think a lot of us are hit with, and that is the high cost of staying sick. Money, energy, and life. I'm going to start with the money. I'm looking down to make sure I get the points correct. The cost, okay, so when we're sick all the time, when we're fatigued, brain fog, when we have low energy, so fatigue, but that lack of drive, that kills productivity in our businesses and at work. When you're exhausted and you've just showed up for the day and you're already exhausted, your drive throughout the day is not good. Not to mention, because our bodies are tired and fighting and are malnourished, we are more often getting sick with the flu and the cold and random fevers and things of that nature. When we're at work and we're getting, just to the middle of the day, we're dying for food, we're dying for some kind of pick-me-up. Not to mention when you're exhausted or tired, not, I shouldn't say just exhausted, but you're just tired and just that fatigue, it just dogs you all the time. It really hits your emotions negatively. And now all of a sudden you're supposed to be at work being totally productive. It's very difficult to be productive and be tired. And so this affects the bottom line of the businesses, which affects your bottom line who is working, whether you're the owner of a business, manager, or just simply an employee. It hits your bottom line too. I mean, yes, they have things like sick days and you get paid sick leave and stuff like that. But all of a sudden, I remember where I used to work, I had 3 sick days. Oops, I got sick for 7. Guess what? I don't get paid for those other days. And sure, I don't get fired, but I lose that money. And then when I get home from work, and so this will be more than the money. Well, actually, no, hold up. You get home from work, do you feel like cooking in your kitchen and making a whole meal so you have something to eat at night? or you so tired, you're just ordering. And this is actually a trend in the United in the West. For a lot of us, we're just ordering out. Now, there is a bit of shift happening as the expense of ordering out is going up and up and up. But when we go to the grocery store, we often are buying shortcuts when it comes to our food, which is way more expensive. Anyways, the high cost of staying sick is in productivity. The second thing is the medicine. We have to consume more medicine that doesn't make us richer consuming that medicine, but we have to consume medicine in order to get healthy, or at least our maintain ourselves, maintain our body. So a lot of the medicine is lifelong. That's a lot of money going out the window that just makes it so I don't die, or makes it so that I can get to work and stay at work. It masks the symptoms, it masks the problem, and we're getting poorer. Now, I already talked about the energy. It hits our money, it hits our energy. But think about this: when it comes to our energy, sure, I talked about work, but then our life at home, our personal life. There's what I'm looking for. You don't have the energy anymore to go out to the concert. I mean, you're in your 40s, you've worked hard all day, and you're tired. And the weekend, you're looking forward to it just to rest. You're not going to concerts when you're looking to rest. Sure, young people do, but we've kind of accepted that as we get older, we're just gonna lose our energy and not have energy for anything. Our personal relationship with our family, with the loved ones around us, I think that gets hit as well. Again, you've worked all day, you're tired. That's how we see it. And then, man, all I want to do is just plop down in front of my TV, play video games, watch television, and just kind of zone out because I'm mentally exhausted. And I'm arguing that the food that we're eating is more the cause of our lack of energy for our personal lives than necessarily the long day at work. I think it's a contributor. I think even if you were totally healthy from top to bottom, you've worked hard all day at work, you're going to be, you're a little more tired. But I don't think we should be so exhausted. I don't think we should be so exhausted. And, you consider that we're in the modern age, we have modern food, we have modern technology. Should our health not be even better than it used to be? We are living longer lives, but in a lot of ways, that's because of the medication that's getting in the way. And we've been able to dramatically drop infant mortality. That's the main thing that's actually pushing our average lifespan to a higher levels, because infant mortality is almost like it's much less than it ever was in history. Give me a moment here. As much as I talk about health, I still have not overcome my love of sweet. Today, I'm actually starting a. I'm actually starting a. What am I doing? I am starting a fast today. And I've done these before, and I really like them. They have a great effect on getting one's body into ketosis and helping to kickstart weight loss again. Being 220 pounds, I've lost a lot of weight, but man, compromise really gets in the way of getting the results that we need. Compromise gets in the way of the results that we are after. And I've had to learn no more compromise. And one of the ways that I'm pushing myself to not compromise is fasting. Because food is not going to have ruleship authority in my life. I will have authority in my life, not food. And think about this. If you're sick all the time and you're hungry all the time, the two things that end up having authority in your life is the food that you're constantly in need of, and your health that you're constantly having to battle. which then takes away from life. As I talked about energy and your energy and your fatigue that you're dealing with from the beginning of the day. That's a major issue. You've slept all night. You've been sleeping all night, and you've done, and then you get up in the morning and it's like you never slept. And many of us, as we get older, feel that, and we think to ourselves, well, it's just a part of getting older. Two things have changed in my life. One, the standard American diet. I don't do it anymore. I do 100% carnivore, high fat carnivore. And I got a better bed. I got a better bed. And I'm sleeping all the way through the night like a teenager. I know how people will say, I want to sleep like a baby. No, I do not. Freaking waking up every 2 hours screaming my head off. Nope, not interested. But teenagers, once you get them into bed, man, they just whoosh, they just sleep. And they can sleep 4 hours. And sleep for many hours. And that's what I want. I want that back. And I've been getting it. I think that with the energy drop, we end up having a life taken away from us. And so we end up just going to work, going home, going to bed, and we just repeat that cycle over and over again. The weekend, as we get older, is more and more time of sleep and making our way through chores. But a lot of times it's just sleep and zoning out. I don't want that life anymore. I don't want it. I'm noticing that I'm rushing through this stuff here. So before I move on, I do need to say that the the cost of all the medication, the cost of doctors' visits, the diet books, the frustration, the personal fatigue, brain fog, body pain, shame of failed diets. I've done my share of failed diets. Just trying to not eat as much and get bigger and bigger anyways. Do the counting, the calorie counting, but fighting hunger all day long. Yeah, I'm doing a fast right now, and today I'm going to suffer. I'll be hungry for the day, but by day 5, I don't even notice it. Don't even notice it. I'm not hungry. You know. Oh no, that okay. I apologize. There'll be a moment in the day where I might feel a bit like, ooh, yeah, I'm hungry, and then it's gone. And most of the time, I'm not feeling hunger. And with all the fat on my body, I don't need to eat every single day. My body will do very well all by itself with the huge amounts of fat on my body. One of the biggest lies that seems to be hitting us is the diabetes cannot be reversed. And I'm not talking about type 1 diabetes, that's a different conversation. But type 2 diabetes. If you get type 2 diabetes, they're going to tell you there's nothing that can be done. You can manage it, you can help to reduce the symptoms to a degree. Sorry. It's annoying. I want to do this live stream, and my allergies are deciding that they're going to be interrupting things here. Anyways, okay. So I have been learning through stories and through research that type 2 diabetes can actually be reversed. They say that it can't be reversed. And I mean, I like using the word cure. If you're no longer suffering from the disease, then is that not a cure? In fact, what I've been learning, some people with type 2 diabetes, they get their health, they get their eating turned around, and they get their health turned around eventually. They can actually handle some sugar. No ill effect, no doctors, no pills. Um, that's what I've been learning. I'm not an expert. These are just the stories I've been hearing. But the thing is that I used to be pre-diabetic. That's I was rocketing towards type 2 diabetes with the huge amounts of carbohydrates that I was eating. I had stopped consuming sugar, like drinks, and I didn't eat a lot of cakes and stuff like that, but lots of pasta, macaroni and cheese, Kraft macaroni and cheese, French fries with my burger, just, you know, potatoes, rice, like a lot of carbohydrates. And I was pre-diabetic. Whenever I had a soda pop that was a sugar soda pop, and I drank some of that, just didn't have to drink much. Oh, I'd feel sick. I'd feel absolutely sick. My sister was already pre-diabetic, and she'd been actually diagnosed. I was headed that way. I was I hadn't gone into the doctor to get that study, to get that blood work done, to say, yep, you're pre-diabetic. But I couldn't drink soda pop anymore. Couldn't do it. Made me sick as a dog. And so um, I stopped consuming that soda pop, but I continued eating lots of like carbohydrates, which is just, it's sugar. Carbohydrates are sugar. Once it gets in your body, it digests right into glucose and sucrose and stuff like that, and it's sugar, and it spikes your blood sugar, and you continue to get fat. What I was learning is that type 2 diabetes, what it is your body is no longer responding to insulin like it's supposed to. Type 1 diabetes is when your body is not producing enough insulin. Either it doesn't produce any, or it's just not enough, and so you have to supplement. And what type 2 diabetes, the way they treat it is they do get you to pay more attention to what you're eating, but 3/4 of your plate is going to be carbohydrates. And then you take insulin shots to put even more insulin in your body, so it just forces the body to respond to the insulin. But what I've been learning is that what happens over time is the body becomes less and less and less responsive to that diabetes insulin that you're putting into your body. So you got to put more. And eventually, the body just stops responding in all kinds of places. Please give me a minute. Do these in the afternoon. But I was bound and determined to do a live stream today because I had trouble learning how to get this done. And now I'm here, and now my allergies want to kick up a stink. My allergies are better than they used to be, but I'm still struggling with them. I have not found like the perfect like system to just get rid of allergies altogether. It's not there yet. But yeah, what I'm learning is that type 2 diabetes is your body is less responsive. And the cure, or not the cure, but the way that it's treated is by giving you more and more and more insulin. And your body becomes less and less and less responsive to that insulin, meaning you need more. But eventually what starts happening is the body just stops responding altogether. And I guess this is where like parts of your body start shutting down and they have to be removed till eventually your body just expires. You expire because your body cannot respond to insulin anymore. Now, here's the crazy thing: your body is designed for insulin, like it's designed to have it. So, how is it that your body would become unresponsive to that which it needs? Your body has to have insulin. And what I'm learning is that it's this spiking. You get this huge amount of sugar in your body, in your bloodstream, and that's deadly poisonous. So the body has to shoot insulin into the bloodstream to get that blood sugar to come back down to healthy levels. You go above the amount of sugar that the body naturally produces, it doesn't replace the sugar that's in there. What it does is it sends that sugar into your fat cells. And it has to constantly do this 3 times a day minimum for a lot of people. Many of us, we're eating like 5, 6, 7 times a day, just trying to keep up with our body's demand. And so it's spiking and dropping and spiking and dropping and spiking and dropping, and it overworks the insulin mechanism within the body. And eventually the body just says no more. And I don't understand the chemical systems that make that no, like say no more. But it seems like the body just something like the fat gets just too much into the fat cells or something like this. It's bodies respond differently, but a lot of people are being hit with it refuses to respond. And what I learned is what they used to do back in the day, so before the invention of insulin, what the prescribed uh, treatment was for type 2 diabetes: no more carbohydrates, high animal fat, high protein. Now, protein does have a insulin response in the body. It does cause an insulin response. Sugar is extreme though. Fat, animal fat, it's almost none. And so it seems that when you go high fat, you still have to have, you still need your protein, but you go high fat animal protein, your body recovers from type 2 diabetes. And over time, the body becomes completely responsive to insulin again. And what I was learning is there is such a thing as type 3 diabetes. And it seems that this is not widespread knowledge, but type 3 diabetes is when the brain stops being responsive to insulin. And I guess insulin has an integral part in the brain's function, because the brain does require carbohydrates plus a couple of other uh, organs in your body, but your body produces all the carbohydrates your body will ever need. There's no such thing actually as a essential carbohydrate or an essential sugar that you must eat in order to live. It doesn't exist. And so if we consume huge amounts of carbohydrates or sugars, another organ that gets hit is the brain, and that's known as type 3 diabetes. And what's the symptom? Memory problems, memory loss, and the ability to think. So dementia and Alzheimer's. I saw a story. I saw a story of this young lady. She was like 13 years old, and she was already exhibiting symptoms of Alzheimer's at 13. And by 16, she had full-blown Alzheimer's. Full-blown. And we're being told that that is genetic. But doing my research is like, okay, that's what I'm told. I'm told that it's genetic. And then I do lots of research. I'm looking up for studies. I'm consuming tons of lectures from doctors and geneticists and people that know their business and people who do the research on the studies. And I bring that and I listen to the arguments that come from those that argue the more traditional way and compare results. Here's something I learned. Go back to 1900. Alzheimer's is almost unheard of. Alzheimer's and dementia, almost unheard of. Wait a second. Hasn't it always been around and people were always dealing with this? Not in America. It was almost unheard of in America. Fast forward to 2025, and we are seeing children getting this disease. How? If it's genetic? Are our genetics, is our DNA deteriorating that fast? And admittedly, yes, the human DNA is actually deteriorating. There's a theory out there known as genetic entropy, and that the human genome is deteriorating generation after generation. But I've now learned it's not deteriorating that fast. And so this kid, how did she become dementia? How did she become dementia? How did she end up losing her cognitive ability? Is it really just that she just had the bad genetics? When these kind of diseases were unheard of even among adults in 1900. And it's not that the medicine is just now able to detect it. Um, the ability to observe human health has been around for thousands of years, and people are actually really, really good at it. No, it's that there's been an extreme increase. Heart disease, almost unheard of in 1900. 1875, unheard of. Doctors never saw it, not in America. And apparently it was actually not that heard of really around the world. I think there was some cases, but it was like extremely rare. Now it's the number one killer in the United States. It's that, or it's cancer. I forget which way. I think it's heart disease is first and cancer is second. There's another one, cancer. Cancer was, it existed, but it wasn't like it is today. It was not a number one killer. It was rare. And so the big lie, diabetes can't be reversed, what I'm learning is that it's our diets that have led to type 2 diabetes. And if we if we change our diets, we can actually reverse type 2 diabetes. That's what I've been learning. And there are story after story after story of people doing just that. You just look it up. Go onto YouTube, reversing type 2 diabetes. You will find stories after stories. Now, you're going to find also people who poo-poo the idea, and they're going to say, oh, no, it's not true. But then you listen to the stories. Older people all over the internet, all over the world, are reversing their type 2 diabetes, and they no longer need medication, or they're not reversing the type 2 diabetes, they're reducing it, and they're now needing minimal medication to maintain their blood sugar. And they're losing weight like crazy, and complications that were coming from the diabetes is now disappearing. As I look down at my notes here, and our entire diet in the North American, the standard American diet is just it's centered and founded on carbohydrate consumption. Vegetables don't even touch it. Carbohydrates is the majority of our diet. You take a look at the food pyramid. The base of the food pyramid is carbohydrates. We eat a huge amount of sugar, and weight gain and diabetes seem to be the main outcome of that consumption. When I got busy and I actually omitted carbohydrates 2 years ago from my diet, and I lost 52 pounds. 2 years ago, I eliminated carbohydrates. Let me try this again. 2 years ago, I eliminated carbohydrates from my diet, and I lost 52 pounds. And why didn't I lose all of my weight? Because I compromised with carbohydrates. As soon as I consume carbohydrates, boom, I don't lose weight. And if I keep eating the carbohydrates, I just grow. I cannot consume carbohydrates. In a lot of ways, I'm going to argue that the vast majority of us are allergic to carbohydrates because of what it does in our body. I don't think that carbohydrates give us any benefits. We don't need them. Our body produces them. So when I say no benefit, I'm talking about the food that we consume. We don't need that food to have carbohydrates in it because our body produces all we'll ever need. And now I've lost 52 pounds. And I still have more weight to lose. But now that I've been absolutely strict with carbohydrates, I refuse to compromise. I refuse to, just compromise. That's just the best word. I'm back to losing weight again. I've lost a whole bunch of inches. The actual weight has actually kind of stayed the same, but I've lost inches off of my belt line. I love it. It's fantastic. And if I can get rid of this doggone stomach, that's going to be really great. But my stomach has shrunk a huge amount from 2023 when I first started this diet in March of 2023. And the way that I cut out carbohydrates was actually just going carnivore. It was the easiest thing to do. just cut it all out and just focus on eating meat, fatty meat. That's what I did. And it helped with the cravings and stuff like that. And my body just adjusted. It took a bit, but it adjusted. I mean, our bodies have been carbohydrate adjusted for years, decades, but it seems our primary design is actually ketosis. That's what our body wants to actually uh, be in that state, consuming and processing ketones, and that we get into that state, one through fasting, and two through animal fat and protein. Apparently, um, all wildlife, or the vast majority of wildlife, is actually in ketosis. Bears, wolves, lions, cows that are eating naturally. I don't know what's happening to them when they're in the feedlots being fed grains, but uh, deer, you name it, they're actually in a state of ketosis. And it seems that a baby, when it's being fed breast milk, not that artificial stuff that you get from the factory, baby food. No, no, no. When they're consuming breast milk, they're in ketosis, 100% in ketosis. And I guess like every baby that's being fed breast milk, it is in ketosis. And I guess that's actually why humans can actually survive for huge amounts of time without food, because the body goes into ketosis, if I can talk, and reduces the amount of nutrition or food that it needs, yet still be able to run and be able to do the things it needs to do. Your body is wildly efficient and designed to survive. And when you're in ketosis, it's at its most optimal um, tuning, the most optimal state for thriving. And so it seems that we actually need a lot less food than we understand. Um, I know that Dr. Anthony Chaffee, he eats once a day. There are others who regularly include fasting. Dr. Anthony Chaffee doesn't think it's really necessary. But here's my point: once a day to once every couple of days, once every 3 days, apparently your body does fine. You don't have to do the fasting, it's just that you can, which means then that, like, how much food and how often do we actually have to eat? What do we really need? And I'm not talking about the weight loss journey, that's different. But we're now maintaining, we've lost all our weight, we're healthy as ever. How much food do we need, say in a given month? And how much food, pardon me, yet again, I need to get distracted. Okay, so how much food in a given month do we need to thrive? How much food would we need to eat per day? I'm really curious. I don't know the answer to that, but I am curious. Now, when it comes to food myths, a big one has been calorie counting in order to lose weight. Now, there is a place for calorie counting when we're trying to adjust our diet and get to a place where we actually are losing weight and maintaining healthy. Some people have found that when they count calories, they make sure to eat enough, because under eating on the carnivore diet actually is a major issue. You just don't feel hungry, and people are finding that that's an issue. And then because we come from a culture of under eat so that you will lose weight, when they get into actual proper human diet practices, they actually end up not eating enough. So calorie counting has its place. Not to mention, you can lose weight. You actually can lose weight. Pardon me, you can gain weight. You can gain weight eating the proper human diet. You got to work at it, but it can be done. So sometimes, especially early on, calorie counting can be valuable to prevent weight gain. That being said, I will argue, and many are arguing, that the calorie counting craze has not done any benefit for our culture. One, our bodies don't burn food. Our bodies use food for building, repairing, replacing, and for energy generation. And the energy generation, that energy is a chemical process. It is not, food is not burned. I have some candles right here. I'm actually burning them right now. That's burning, and our body does not do that. Our body uses food. And so here's the thing. If we are consuming the standard American diet, it's devoid of nutrition, bioavailable nutrition. So I keep hitting the mic, but it's devoid of bioavailable nutrition. So our bodies are in dire need of more. So we end up consuming more. So it makes us fat. And so we think to ourselves, okay, so the advice came out: eat less food so that you will lose weight. And it does work to a degree, but you're constantly hungry. You're endlessly starving for food. We need to stop counting calories and to start counting food. How much we're eating, I disagree that is the major problem. I think that's a very rare problem. Instead, it's what we are eating. I know myself, I didn't eat all day long, yet I was overweight. Like, I was really overweight. But I wasn't eating all day long. I ate a couple of times a day. Now, I had to eat quickly. And I would eat easy food, really, really easy food. Either I was buying it from Burger King, Wendy's, or McDonald's, or I was, cooking from a package. Kraft macaroni and cheese is a good example. Wonderful Uncle Ben's rice. Actually miss Uncle Ben, especially Uncle Ben's face being on the package. I miss that. But I was, that kind of food, just quick, easy. And so when you're eating like that, then calorie counting, in a sense, works. But instead, what I did was I changed what I was eating. And that's all I did. I didn't hold back on how much I was eating. I ate whenever I was hungry. And I lost so much weight. I think that calorie counting in a real way is just a myth. I think that calories really is a myth. And calorie counting, pardon me, is ineffective. And I'm just looking at my notes here, and it's saying why calorie counting fails. And here's why calorie counting fails. I think it fails because we're always hungry, and we end up fighting that hunger. In fact, there are many people who are on this yo-yo journey, this yo-yo relationship with food, because they eat not enough for a long period of time, and then they get just ravenous and they give into that emotion and they eat like crazy. But they're eating the wrong food. And so when they eat like crazy, they explode, they become massive in size. That's not going to work. We can't do that. It fails. That's the failure. Yes, they shrink, but then they gain it all back once they get to a point where they can, they satisfy their appetite. But then the other part is when they're calorie counting and why it fails is that they're dealing with the standard American diet, which gives them all kinds of carbohydrates, all kinds of foods that come from a plant. And vegans and vegetarians are in the same boat. The vegan maybe is they focus maybe primarily on, say, fresh food and food that comes from a garden. Plus, they will include some factory food, so like your tofu and fake meats and things like that. And their big challenge is lack of nutrition. They're starving. And then there's plenty of vegetarians that are overweight. And that's because their diets are primarily carbohydrates. I mean, the only way that they can make carbohydrates really taste good is with sugar and fake fat. Um, Now, I have noticed this, that if you are in Europe, the grain that they grow there is very different from the grain they grow in America. That being said, concentrating your diet on carbohydrates, which is grains and stuff like that, is still not beneficial to your diet. I've seen it. I've been doing my research, and I'm noticing that the waistlines around the world are growing that center their diets on carbohydrates. I think that this system of counting calories has a major problem, and that is self-blame. They're doing everything they're supposed to be doing, they struggle like crazy, and then they give in to the emotion. Then they feel guilty that they gave in to the emotion of dying for food. They're so hungry, and so they end up not only yo-yo dieting, but they have a really bad emotional relationship with food. Food is energy. Food is nutrition. I even am getting to a point where I kind of reject. I'm like, nope, I don't want um, food for pleasure anymore, because it gets in the way of what food is actually for: nourishment. I've eaten now. Just I eat animal products, shrimp or fatty beef steak or chicken, whatever, right? And I mean, I enjoy the food; it's nice. But then I'm done, and I get on with other things. This is a part of me moving on with my life and doing other things other than chasing after the endless road of fighting with food. I don't want to fight with food. I want food to be my servant, my slave. I want food to serve me, not me serve food. And so I think that the standard American diet and calorie counting causes a lot of harm, and it's led to this very unhealthy relationship we have with food. I think it has, as itchiness is now driving me nuts as I get nervous. So real food versus fake food. I think that the standard American diet and the way that we deal with obesity, it involves a tremendous amount of fake food. First, just the regular standard American diet. Carbohydrates are not food for us. There are animals that consume carbohydrates that give you the hummingbird. I'm not trying to be funny. They run on carbohydrates. The honeybee runs on carbohydrates, and they're designed for that. They need it. They can't survive another way. They have to have carbohydrates. You and I, we're completely different. So pasta, bread, rice, potatoes, yams, pick your carbohydrate rich foods. They're not actually foods. That's just, you can consume it, it can taste good, but it's not for us. So I put that in the category of fake food. And this includes, I mean, nobody's fooled, I don't think, that, Cheetos or candy bars or chips or any of those type of things really are food. You can consume them, but you're consuming them for pleasure's sake most of the time. Maybe you're diving quick into the gas station because you haven't had chance for supper or lunch or something like that, or breakfast, and you'll grab a candy bar just to quickly eat, just to get rid of that hunger edge and give yourself that spike of energy. But that's fake food, right? Excuse me. Seed oils. Seed oils cannot be produced without the factory. A ton of chemicals, a huge amount of processing to get that oil to a place where you could use it for cooking and eating. And I'm arguing it is not good for us. Margarine, fake butter, if you will, fake butter, that's all margarine is. It's no good for us. Fake food will give you deleterious effects on your body. It will work against you. You go back to 1900, it's very rare to come across somebody that's fat in North America. Very rare. It happened, of course it happened, but it was unheard of. Nowadays, there's an obesity epidemic where our little kids are just huge and they can't play anymore. The best that they can offer these little kids, the best that they can do is actually be very sedentary. It's hard for them to participate in physical activity because they're so big. Now, there's variation. There's a spectrum of this obesity among children, but that is a disaster. And you go back to 1900, you gather all the children of the United States, you're going to pick one, two. It's going to be very rare that we have huge children. And adults, no different. It was very rare, even among I'll just leave it at that. Among Americans, it was very rare. And now there's an epidemic, and it's being tied to heart disease. It's being tied to fatty liver disease. It's being tied to cancer. It's being tied to Alzheimer's. It's diabetes is generally showing up among the obese. It's not always true, but generally, the obese are the ones who carry all these wild diseases. And I'm arguing it's because of fake food. If what you're about to eat could not have been produced in 1900, we probably should not be eating it. Probably. And especially go to grandma, right? Grandma, in 1900 grandma, right? And you are going to go to eat at her house. What would she have produced? I don't think there would have been anything from a box, or very little. She did have flour, but it wasn't something that she used all the time. And there were vegetables, but the primary food would have actually been animal. And it would have all come from her garden and the kitchen, and a little bit from the garden, meat, and a little bit from the grocery store, right? They had the general store. And that's it. And today, it's incredible, the food that we're eating. So I think that, like any of your low-fat foods, that's not food. That's not food. I think that we should be eating full fat. I've been doing this, and my weight has gone down significantly. My energy has gone up significantly, especially now that I'm sleeping better. Back pain, all that kind of stuff. The full fat, full protein foods are what we actually need. And as I totally get distracted by my amazing phone, low fat cereals and all that kind of stuff. No, I think that the steak, the eggs, bacon, butter, water, and those kind of food that fit that kind of category, that's real. It's 100. Well, I shouldn't say 100%, but it is really bioavailable. When you eat a piece of beef, a ribeye steak, or a brisket, your body absorbs almost all of that. If you consume plant-based foods, your body's absorbing average 50%. Some of it goes down to something like 20%. I think there is a couple of plant foods that get up to 60%. But it averages out to about 50% of your food is absorbed. The rest is waste. But when you eat fatty animal food, almost 100%, I want to say it's like 98%, 95, 98% of that food gets absorbed. And it's bioavailable. The way I think that we get back to having a healthy lives, to have a healthy body, a healthy population, there's what I was trying to say, is that the population goes back to eating the way they used to in the 1900s, just with abundance. No starvation. I don't want to see any starvation. Just that it's full and people have all the food that they need, but it's only going to be simple food, stuff that grandmother would have made in 1900, because people were pretty healthy back then. I know we've heard the opposite. I know we have heard the opposite. People died back then from exposure and infection. We've got exposure and infection freaking licked. Yet our numbers, our death rate is through the roof. And I'll argue it's because we've replaced our more I want to say comorbidities, but we've replaced what kills us with the food that we eat. And so if we replace the food that we eat with what we're supposed to be eating, and I'm arguing, at least what they were doing in 1900, I think the carnivore diet's the best. But at least eating the way they did in 1900. And then we keep the rest of it, like, we don't have tons of exposure to horrible weather and stuff like that. We don't have tons of accidents where people are dying on the job, and we don't have infection. There are some people, I don't know, this is definitely conspiracy, but there are some people that would argue that we could be living 120 years on the norm. When the Europeans were first making contact with the First Nations, the Native Americans, and they're making first contact with them. I'm trying to remember the book I was reading that I got this from, but they came into contact with the plains natives, and the First Nations there were ridiculously tall, averaging. It was common for them to hit over 7 feet tall. And perfect teeth, very, like, they didn't have all the crooked teeth that we have today and stuff like that. The big one that matters to what I was mentioning is that they were claiming that regularly they had elders that were over 120 years old. Now it was dismissed. It's like, oh, those primitive people, they didn't know how to keep track of years. But I don't know if we should be so quick to dismiss that, because it was a common story that they had people over 120 years old regularly. Now, not at the numbers we have nowadays. I know Donald Trump, and he was going through all the fraud that was happening with the Medicaid and stuff like that, and people are being sent money that they're 130 years old. Like, no. We know people are generally passing away in their 80s nowadays, but wouldn't it be interesting if it actually was normal? And all of a sudden there was somebody that was 137 years old. Now we'd be telling Donald Trump, oh, hold on. Actually, this is normal. Come check out this study. Come and check out the results, That'd be neat. That'd be really, really neat. Now, I put in here the Seventh-day Adventist health message. I have learned that there is a religious component to there's a religious component to the diet that we have today, that our diets are so focused on plants. And what I've learned is that the Seventh-day Adventists, among others, really got influenced by the temperance movement back in the day. So this is like, I don't know, 1860 maybe, 1850, somewhere around there. I don't know the dates. And the Adventists were really worried, and a lot of religious people were really worried about the sinful nature of the American population. And they were noticing that people were being driven by, appetite. They wanted to. They were being driven by their carnal nature far more than their supposed heavenly nature, and they wanted to curb this. And so they were finding different ways in different ways. One of the things that was being pushed by the temperance movement that also ended up being given its stamp of approval by the Adventist faith was the idea of removing meat from the diet. Now, this had nothing to do with trying to prevent heart disease. As I was saying, back then it was unheard of. Had nothing to do with removing obesity, because back then it was extremely rare. What was it for? The temperance movement and the Seventh day Adventists, among a few others, pushed the vegetarianism so that people would have less energy. People would have less drive. People would have less passion so that they would then have less interest in going after their carnal desires. They wouldn't have the energy. They wouldn't have the passion. They would not have the drive. They'd be like, nope, I'm too tired. And here's the thing. You look at North Americans today, and they have a very plant-based, plant-focused diet. And one of the big issues is fatigue. Well, back then they were trying to get people to be fatigued so they would be less likely to sin. And that was the original push for vegetarianism. It was not to prevent heart disease. It was not to prevent obesity, and it had nothing to do with the environment. The environment was not what they were concerned about. And it's not that they didn't care about the environment. Actually, they very much did. One of the misconceptions in our culture today is that we are the first generation that cares about the environment. That is absolutely not true at all. The people back then cared about the environment very, very much because they were 100% dependent on the environment. What changed the landscape when it comes to the environment was industrialization, factories, big business. That is where we really started to get into this issue and this conflict with the environment, not the regular population. Regular people, they were very dependent on the environment, and they absolutely took care of it, because if they didn't, they died. It was a very direct correlation. You mess with the environment and you treat it badly, it will treat you badly. And yes, there was a bit of a tug of war between the environment and mankind when you look at things like winter and trying to survive winter and stuff like that. But they had to work with it. They could not fight it. And they could not destroy it, pardon me, not fight it, but they couldn't destroy it. And so back then, the food was not about trying to protect the environment. It was about to keep people from sinning. And so one of the first things that actually caused me to adopt the carnivore diet was to realize the Seventh-day Adventist health message originally had nothing to do with health. And now that I understand what I do about health and nutrition and what food does in our body and how our body actually works, I'm realizing that their lack of interest in nutrition back then doesn't change the effect of the food today, where how do I say this? No, I'm saying this wrong. The focus of health today by many Seventh-day Adventists pushing the vegan and vegetarian diets does not change the effect that those diets actually had from their original inception. Inception? They were trying to ruin people's health so they'd stop being so passionate. So they would stop having so much drive. That was the purpose. And Ellen White, who is the prophetess, the supposed prophetess of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, argued, well, we'll just go with this. She was the one that advocated for different ideas. There's another conversation around that, but argued that we should be going back to the diet of the Garden of Eden. And that was God's original plan, that we'd be going back to the Garden of Eden. And what that idea, what that thinking has had on our health is just staggering. Absolutely staggering. Dr. John Kellogg, if you've ever heard of Kellogg's cornflakes, well, he was influenced by the Seventh-day Adventist Church and was actually the typesetter for Ellen White's books back when he was a little kid. He was, I guess, he was actually really smart, really, really smart, brilliant man. And He created cornflakes. Cornflakes is fake food. It's not good for you. It prevents your body from absorbing nutrition, and it encourages actually obesity because of what it is. It's carbohydrates. It's mostly carbohydrates and the different compounds that make up corn that cause it to be non-nutritious. You know, I've got written down here why experts keep getting it wrong. Now, I want to be careful here. I'm an expert. I'm an expert driving instructor. It's what I do. And I'm extremely good at it. I'm very capable of teaching somebody who does not know how to drive. And if that person is terrified or afraid, I gotcha. So why would experts keep getting it wrong? Well, there's people, I'll just take myself as an example. We are dependent on others doing research for us to know the things that we know. What makes an expert is that they have spent an extended period of time studying and absorbing and being surrounded by a certain topic. So like a biologist is an expert in biology, but is a terrible engineer. And an engineer is a fantastic engineer, but is a terrible carpenter. And a carpenter is amazing at carpentry, but is terrible at heart surgery. On and on and on and on. The garbage man is an amazing garbage man. And if you got the CEO of the garbage company to come down and work as a garbage man, you'd find that he's a terrible garbage man, and the garbage man is a terrible CEO. It's easy for those of us who are experts to get deceived because well, I shouldn't say easy. That's not right. That's not fair. Experts can get deceived just as much as we can. And experts are experts at the specific thing. So things that are outside of their field, they don't know about. And a lot of times we will use somebody who is an expert to push an idea that they're not an expert about. So we have a clinical scientist trying and get that clinical scientist to do some research on nutrition, and the results come out, but he's a clinical psychologist or clinical scientist. He's not a nutritionist, and the nutritionist is not a scientist, and so it can lead to gaps in knowledge. I think that's one of the reasons. I am more likely to be knowledgeable about driving, but it doesn't mean I'm right. And I can be deceived about what safe driving is. So one of the things that we need to do as people who are trying to learn what we should or should not do, one of the things that we need to do is, I'm looking down to make sure my mic is still working. We need to be finding out for ourselves the different things that affect us. So you don't need to become a nutritionist, but you do need to eat. Study and learn. Like you're going to become a driver. Is the driving instructor actually right that red means stop? Why did they make that system in the first place? Go back to the history. Can you find some history on it? Just because the driving instructor says that red means stops does not mean that he knows why that all came about. There are lots of people that they were told to say this, and so that's what they say. They were told to do this, so that's what they do. Why do we have the kind of braking system that we have in cars versus the kind of braking system that we have in transport trucks? A driving instructor isn't necessarily going to know that, but you could. Why do they say that it's healthier to eat fresh vegetables than to eat vegetables that have been cooked beyond belief? Why was that the practice back in the 1950s, where they would cook vegetables beyond cooked? Like just they cooked it into death. Why'd they do that? Where'd that come from? Is there wisdom in it? Maybe it was stupid. Maybe it was the dumbest thing ever. But if you took the time to learn, maybe you could know, and then you would make the decision for yourself. You would decide on your own whether or not you're going to practice something, and you would understand the advice. So when advice came, you'd be able to identify whether or not that advice is something you should follow. And again, you don't need to be an expert in everything, but that which you are directly involved in, and I'm saying eating, yeah, learn. Take the time to study. One of the things that I had to learn how to do, because I'm not an amazing studier, is when I was going to work, I would listen to podcasts on information and knowledge instead of music or entertainment. I have my time for entertainment. It'd be like, a Saturday night. I'm like, that's it. I'm done studying. I'm done working. I'm watching cartoons. But otherwise, I like to study because, yeah, I'm responsible for my body and my health. Another thing that causes experts to get things wrong is the manipulation that comes from big business. They spend money to make sure that information benefits them. Whether that's the food companies, the pharmaceutical companies, they're going to spend money so that whatever people believe, it benefits them. And those experts go to the schools that the big companies and just the big companies in general sponsor. Yes, there is government money coming to those, going to those schools, but a lot of their money also comes from businesses that want to make money. And so when that doctor, when that health nutritionist, when that expert comes out of those schools, guess what they believe? And then they hear some yahoo like me on the internet, and they're like, no way, he can't be right. I went to school. And I got to admit, as a driving instructor, I did, I sometimes have a hard time hearing from the 15-year-old that something is true about driving that I didn't know about or I disagree with. I'm the expert. Like my sister, I love my sister, and she's not 15. She's, how old am I? So 48. She'll be 48 soon. And when she comes to me and disagrees with me on driving, what constitutes good driving, maybe I feel a little offended, right? Imagine being a doctor. So we don't want to hear dissenting opinions. Unless it comes from the institutions and the authorities that we have been taught to trust, we are unlikely to hear that which is contradictory to what we've been taught. And those that are authorities in our lives as experts, we're experts, but we have to listen to other experts. They're being taught by people, by the people that are influenced by big companies, big money, to teach things a certain way, to teach certain things so that you and I believe what will make them profitable. And that funding will cause things like cherry picking, suppressing information, and you do that for decades. I mean, this is a process that's been going on for decades. It's not something that happened overnight. And I don't think there was some great conspiracy where all of them got together and said, okay, everybody, okay, now what we're going to do. Instead, opportunities happened. Heck, the thief that stole your car, why did he steal the car? The keys were in your car. The thief that stole your car, and why did he steal your car? I'm going to say it again, but because he knows how to hotwire your car, and your car happens to be easy to do that with. Did the manufacturer conspire with the thief to make sure your car was stolen? So the manufacturer designed your car so that the thief could steal your car? No. The thief saw an opportunity, and the manufacturer, designs the car the way they do to save the most amount of money, to make the most amount of money, and to deliver the service that they can at the least cost. And so things get done a certain way to prevent them from losing money, to make sure they make money. They try to produce a product that you'll buy to the best of their ability without, it's just opportunities. So I think that what led to, the companies becoming such a huge sponsor of research and government regulation was opportunity. You know, you go back to 1930. What things were in its infancy, but this particular politician probably had good intentions. Maybe the food company had good intentions. We can't. I don't like assigning intentions. I just pay attention to the results, right? How'd we get to where we are? Now, I guess that would be the thing. So this action led to that result. Deciding what their motives were, but I don't think this was a great conspiracy. I just think it's one event that happened after another. And now we're at a point where we do need to make changes. We got to be paying attention as consumers, because that's the world we live in now. Most of us are consumers, and we got to pay attention. We got to know how something is true, not just as that it's supposed to be true. Like, one of the things that um, a lot of us in school are taught, this is true, whatever this is, right? The earth is spherical in shape. That is true. Okay, Mr. Teacher. Yep, that's true. And so we believe that. But here's the thing. Do you know how we know that the earth is spherical in shape, aside from spaceships and stuff like that went out there and took pictures of the earth, and holy crap, we found out it was spherical in shape? How do you know that you're seeing or being presented with and coming and encountering truth? How do you know that? Experts are not taught to know how to know what truth is. You and I weren't. I think that we've got to take ownership. And if we take ownership of the information that we have, of the knowledge that we have, of the practices that we do, we will get to a place where we cannot be deceived, because we'll know what truth is. And I think I've totally gone on a bit of a tangent here. But why do experts keep getting it wrong? Because a lot of times the experts are simply an expert on knowing the information, not necessarily understanding what makes that information true. And I was a driving instructor, and there's so many of the driving instructor experts don't know why students got to do what they got to do, why the laws are what they are. They're just told, you have to do this, so student, you do this and you'll pass the road test. And that's pretty much their approach. And school is no different. And you really got to think outside of the box to get to a place where you'll know why things are true. And so I'm definitely digressing like crazy. And I see that my screen has been denied me because I'm getting all kinds of notifications. I need to see my screen. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, I don't know how. Okay, whatever. That's something else. Anyways, I don't blindly trust expert consensus. I'll hear it though, because here's the other thing. After I say all the things I've said negative about experts, they are more likely. Experts are more likely to be right because of their expertise. It just doesn't mean they are. So when I'm getting my tires and I'm talking to the tire guy, I'm going to ask questions, but he's going to give me some information, and then I'm going to go research. Is what he say true? Is what he says true? I want to know, because I'm putting my life on those tires to go down the freeway at 100 kilometers an hour, 60 miles an hour, 70. I mean, in some states, it's like 70 miles an hour. Those tires had better be freaking good. But I'm still going to I'm going to listen and hear the advice of the expert. I'm going to go to the expert for advice. But then that will be a place I'll begin my journey of research. And more often than not, you'll probably find that the experts are right. It's just that in certain places I have found that, oh, wow, experts can be compromised. And they're not right about X, Y, or Z. Got to keep the distractions out. So one of the things, One of the things I've been learning about how to know whether or not something is to be trustworthy is who sponsored it, who sponsored the research, who sponsored the information, and more, who profits. So you take a look at the sugar companies. If it is believed, if it is, if we are able to, if we are able, how do I say this? Okay, who profits? Basically, it's like following the money, right? So the sugar company is going to make a ton of money if everybody believes that you can eat sugar. And we all love sugar, or most people love sugar. So the research comes out and says, yeah, sugar doesn't cause diabetes. Great. We can eat all we want. Is that true? Did the sugar companies sponsor the study that then concluded that sugar is not causing diabetes? You know, I remember there was a movie, a documentary way back in the 90s called Diet for a New America. And they criticized the studies that were being used in there by the milk companies that promoted milk consumption, because the milk companies were the sponsors of the studies around milk consumption, and especially the media, the posters and the advertisements and stuff like that. The educational material, there's what I was trying to say, was sponsored by the milk companies and the meat companies. You know what? I got to admit that I don't disagree with that argument. I really wish there was some kind of independent body that could look at the idea, the question, and say, okay, let's find out. And the milk company can't influence it, and the sugar company can't influence it. The sugar industry can't influence it. Now, I don't know how, like, what would we do to set up a body that could filter out things? But follow the money. Follow the money, and who sponsored the study? Who profits? Um, and then, does it match real life? When the study is put out there, does it actually match real life? You know, okay, this information's out there, and we can eat as much sugar as we want. Yet, as sugar consumption in the United States has increased over the decades, so has diabetes. Now, it could just be correlation, a coincidence, right? It's just a coincidence that doesn't prove causation, but that's worth a study. That's worth like going, well, wait a second. Why is it that when consumption of sugar increased in the United States, so also did diabetes? Right? Those are questions. You know, the sugar consumption increased in the United States, and so did waistlines. And people who don't omit sugar in their diets continue to fight with their weight. Just, um, are dissenting voices silenced? You know, that's been a big problem in our culture lately. Well, that's been a big problem in our culture actually for a very, very long time. It's just now we're able to actually see it, right? We're watching things happening in England, and somebody puts up a post on social media, and the government comes running after that person who just, heck with putting up a post. They viewed a post on their phone at school, and now the government comes along and confiscates the little girl's phone because she viewed a post at school. Like, wait a second, wait a second. It's the difference is that now we are able to see all the things that authorities do to keep information under their control. It's been going on for decades. It's not new. So, when it comes to dissenting voices, are they silenced? Dr. Tim Notes from New Zealand, I believe it was. Yeah, I think it's New Zealand. He was there were certain authorities and different people, things of influence that tried to get his doctor's license revoked because he was prescribing um, diet to solve obesity, diabetes, and other things instead of prescribing medication and surgeries. Why was his voice being squelched? Was he wrong? Be interesting to find out. Why did they go after him so fervishly and fervently? Feverish, really passionately. Why did other doctors end up being how should I say, attacked because of what they were promoting? Like, why? I mean, in my opinion, if something's a lie, just prove it wrong. Don't crush their voice. Let them say it. I want anybody that has stupid things to say, let them say it. Let them say their stupid things. Save calls to violence. So if somebody says Bobo over there should be, unalived, okay. That I disagree with, right? But otherwise, whatever stupid thing that we all have to say, let it be said, because the marketplace of ideas will filter out trash from what's good. And does the information create dependence or independence? And this is big. Go back to what I was talking about with grandma cooking, right? What would she have been able to cook and make from her kitchen in 1900? Here's another big one. Who was grandma dependent on when it came to getting the food? Herself, her husband, the general store, and the farmers, right? It's likely that the meat that she got was coming from the farmers. And that's it. So there's some dependency. There is some dependency. When you're being taught how to deal with your diabetes, when you're being taught what causes diabetes, when you're being taught about what causes cancer, are you being taught what's going to make you an independent human being, or are you being taught what's going to make us a dependent human being? My amazing father had 4 heart attacks. Do you know how dependent he is now on the pharmaceutical company? And he got those heart attacks because he was following the advice that he had been told for the last 40 years, 4 decades. He followed it. My dad did not eat fat. No way. Margarine is what was consumed. Seed oils is what was consumed. We didn't eat butter. We didn't eat lard. We didn't eat tallow. We didn't eat duck tallow. Nope. Margarine. Margarine and seed oils. Boiling, baking, and whenever we fried, it was always seed oils. We were very careful about that. He especially was very careful about that. When he bought hamburger, extra lean hamburger. When he bought steaks, extra lean steaks. When he ate chicken, remove the skin. Eat the least fatty chicken he possibly could. Lots of vegetables, lots of salads. But he had a heart attack. 4 of them. Now, my father also used to smoke cigarettes, and he drank beer. But now I've learned the seed oils, the sugar, the margarine, seed oils, margarine, and other plant foods were a big part of what caused people to, caused people to get the heart attacks and get the diseases that people are dealing with these days. I will get better. I promise I'll get better. I have so many lessons to learn when it comes to doing these live streams. But yeah, my father followed all the advice and he ended up dependent upon the system. Now he cannot live without those pharmaceutical companies. And most of us, when we're going shopping, we can't exist without those factories. And I think that's a major thing that we got to consider when we're looking at information and whether or not information is right or wrong when it comes to our health. And the more independent we can be. Like one of the things I got a huge problem with a lot of cars nowadays because you're 100% dependent on the factories. What do I mean? You can't fix your own car. And I mean, I got no hate for Elon Musk. Even when there was a big falling out between him and Donald Trump, I got no hate for Elon. But one of the reasons why I hate his car is that when things go wrong, you cannot fix that car yourself. You're going to need an expert at some garage to charge you whatever they want to get that car back up and running. And go get yourself a brand new Ford Mustang. Get yourself a Mazda 3, one of my favorite cars because of its handling. Honda Civic, a Hyundai Elantra. You pick your cars. You can't fix that car yourself. You're 100% dependent on the car company. 100% dependent. And now they've got it that if you want to change your own oil, yeah, you're not allowed. Otherwise, you forfeit the warranty that they put on that car. So now all your oil changes have to be done through them or an approved garage. And I'm sure they have to spend money in order to get that approval. Yeah, it's a mess. Now, earlier I mentioned that there are tons of stories of people gaining freedom from obesity, diabetes, and stuff like that. There's this channel called Oh Sugar. I want to say My Zero Carb Life. It's zero carb. His name is Dave. And what he does is he interviews people, pardon me, he interviews people from all over the world. And I gotta find this because I can't mention his channel and then sit there and not actually tell you what the channel is called, because I think it's really important, because I'm giving him a shout out. No, okay, so that's Kelly. My Zero Carb Life is Kelly Hogan. Hey, you know what? Kelly Hogan, she has stories, interviews of people reversing their diabetes. Not a person, people. She does. And then, oh, give me what's it called? I'm trying to mess around with, nope, I'm not going to get it. Oh, shoot, I cannot think of the channel's name. His name is Dave. He's out of Japan. Well, if you start with My Zero Carb Life with Kelly Hogan, you'll eventually, in that community, find Dave. Story after story of people in their 70s and 80s, no more diabetes. People who were obese, My Zero Carb Life, herself, she was like really overweight. I forget her weight, something like 260 pounds, I forget. Or was she? No, I think she was starting to edge on 300. And reversed a whole bunch of health conditions and got rid of the obesity. No more obesity. You should see her now. She's skinny like crazy. And this is story after story. One of the big ones that I can remember right off the top of my head is what's his name now? Bill Knott from Alaska. His channel, I think, is called just Bill Knott, and he was over 700 pounds. And he got onto the carnivore diet. Really specifically, he eliminated the carbohydrates, but got onto the carnivore diet, the meat-only diet, and he has lost something like 400 and something pounds. He did not restrict the amount of food he was eating. When he ate. And he lost, and he continues to lose weight. He's losing weight to this day. He just continues to lose weight. People with there's stories, again, go back to Dave, and later on when I get a chance, I'll put it in the description what channel I'm talking about. His name is Dave. But he's got interviews of people who had mental conditions, mental issues. They gave up the carbohydrates, they gave up the vegetables, and went meat only, and reversed those mental issues. Just reversed them. high fat. People with autoimmune diseases, of course, there's it's famous, what's her name now? Michaela Peterson, Jordan Peterson's daughter, but there are way more. She's not the only one. They adopt a meat only diet, and they go hardcore grass fed lion diet. No more autoimmune disease. Now it doesn't get cured. They're able to eliminate this. They are able to eliminate the symptoms, and now all of a sudden they don't have the autoimmune disease in a sense. As soon as they compromise, so boom, they're sick again. And me too. Like if I compromise on carbohydrates, I just get fat. That's it. I'm just fat. And so you can't. Our bodies are a finely tuned machine, and when we compromise, we suffer. And it could be also that we are suffering from so much exposure that our bodies just don't have the fight that they should have. That's just Rodney's theory. Don't take that too far. Just that's Rodney's theory. I think that we are suffering from way too much exposure. And I like my father, he's adopted he's what would he be? He's ketovore, right? He does consume plants. He actually even still consumes some carbohydrates, but he primarily eats meat, and he's lost so much weight. He was obese, absolutely, lost so much weight. And myself, of course, I've lost weight, but my back pain's gone. Uh, Body odor, it's embarrassing to say that, but body odor is 90% reduced. My flexibility is better. My allergies are still an issue, but you'll notice now I haven't been having any issue. That used to last almost all day. Now it's really reduced. I just wish it could be gone forever. Leave me alone, allergies. It's possible. It's actually possible to live healthy. We don't have to be sick. I say that, I take a drink and really say it again. We don't have to be sick. It's not necessary. Let me show you another way. There is another way. We can be healthy in our old age and as children. There is no need for children to be overweight like they are. There's no need for America to be overweight like it is, or Canada, or Australia, or England. Imagine if we had clear minds, strong bodies, the issues that we care so much about, we could actually do something about that. We don't have to be sick. We can have there is another way. There really is another way. We don't have to be sick. And I think that we can know whether or not something is true. And there is a difference. There is a difference. Do you have to be fat? Is it just the luck of the draw? Do you have to have diabetes? Is it just like, well, you got the bad genetics? Or is it that you could actually have some say? And you don't have to suffer to have that say. Counting calories, desperately trying to lose weight, it's easier. There is an easier way. Cut out the carbohydrates. Just do that. And you watch your body respond significantly better. Eat lots of more fatty meat, and you watch your body just get excited. I think there's another way. I think there is a better way. My channel is all about finding that better way, knowing that better way. If you like what you've heard today, subscribe. I'm doing more. This is what my channel is about. And I want to build a community where we come together and we help each other and support each other in this. I'm just sharing information today. I'll be doing more of this. But eventually, I want us to get to a place where we have a community where we're able to stand together and fight, how do I say this? Support and fight, support each other and fight against this bad information that teaches us things that are just not true. And we can know it. We can know it. I pray that God will bless you, that God will guide you. I thank you for watching, and I hope you have an amazing day. God bless you. Bye for now.